Hey everyone, and welcome to Beginning Drum Set Beats 102, and this is lesson number 1. This is the start of a new series here. In this series, we're going to be focusing on development of 16th notes applied to drum set and drum set beats. The prerequisite to this course would be the Beginning Drum Set Beats 101 and the Snare Drum Mastery course as well. Both of them would prepare you for this course and get you able to play and understand the notes a lot quicker. So if you haven't checked out those courses, I recommend you look at those and go through those before attempting this course. So that being said, we're going to go into the 16th notes and see how we can apply those to the drum set. All right, and this series will follow just like all the other series where we examine and explore our actual beats and attempt to label them and understand them before we actually go to the drum set. So we're going to continue on with that tradition. And let's begin by looking at number 1 here. All right, number 1 in our first lesson here. Just a quick refresher. We are going to be playing at about 65 per minute. That's our recommended starting beats per minute for the metronome. Once you master that, you are welcome to go on and try faster speeds. Also, we're in 4/4 time, so all our measures need to equal up to 4. And in this beginning part, we only have one measure per beat, so that should be pretty easy. And then remember, we need to repeat each beat at least one time after playing it through completion. So let's get started here. We are doing a 16th note, so if you remember how 16th notes written, they are going to be 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and followed by 4 E and an And like I said, these are 16th notes. Now, with this particular set of exercises, I'm going to recommend that you play these one-handed on your hi-hat, at least to start out with. So I recommend that you play a right hand lead on the hi-hat. So it's going to be a little bit of work if you've never done this before, but basically you're going to be playing right hand on the hi-hat and playing 16 notes. It'll be like 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So if that's unclear, just wait until you get to the video demos and it'll be pretty self-explanatory then. Okay, so that's number 1. That's just a warm-up exercise for your hand and just kind of a prelude to what's going to be coming in the next exercises. All right, so number 2, we're going to actually add in the bass and snare drum. Looks like everything in this lesson will be same hi-hat pattern of 16th notes. So you can, the actual writing out of the beat should be a little bit easier. All right, so now we just need to identify where our bass drum and snare drum are coming in. Looks like our bass drum is coming on the 1, snare is coming on the 2, bass drum on 3, snare on 2. So pretty standard beat. 1 and 3 on the bass drum and 2 and 4 on the snare, with a 16th note one-handed hi-hat pattern on the top. And don't forget to repeat at least once. Probably want to do more than once though to get used to it. All right, number 3, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and also too, I forgot to point out the way that you know that it's 16th notes is this double bar right here. So that double bar on top means 16th. If it had been a single bar, it would have been the regular 8th note. So, but this is 16th. All right, so back to exercise number 3. Examining our bass drum beats. We're going to be on the 1 and the and. Here 2 and 4. 3 and on the 4. So 1 and 3 and on bass drum and 2 and 4 on snare. And repeat. And then continuing on. A couple more exercises here. Exercise number 4. We would have 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4. Bass drum here. 1. Snare on 2. Then we're going to have a beat on the and the 3. So really you could actually tie those together because they kind of go together. Snare on 4 again, and then bass drum back on the and. And when you have these bass drum patterns that kind of end like this, remember when you do the repeat, you have to tie it right back into that 1. So just keep an eye out for that. Exercise number 5. Go ahead and label it out. It's going to be the same as it has been. And if this is your first course with us, I always recommend that you write these out by hand. If this is not your first course, you know this was what I recommend. So go ahead and print out the sheet and spend some time writing it out. It's a really good exercise. It really helps you understand drum notation and how to count really, really well. So I think it's a really good idea to do this. You could print it out and just follow along with the video with me doing it if you want. But it's really good to learn this kind of stuff. All right, let's examine bass drum and snare drum. Here we're on 1 and the and of 1. Snare on 2, back on the and of 2. This is going to go right into the 3, which is going to be 3 and snare on 4, and then back on the and of 4. And remember, because of the repeat, you would tie it right back into that 1 right there. So, exercise number 6. And 4. Don't forget to repeat. All right, bass drum pattern on the 1 and snare on 2. Also have a bass drum pattern on the and of 2. And then notice we're resting on 3 this time, but we're going to have a bass drum pattern on the and of 3, followed by a snare drum hit on number 4. All right, and then the final exercise here, exercise number 7. Now, exercise number 7 is going to begin to lead us into some studies into bass drum, 16th notes on the bass drum. So up until this point, we've only had 8th notes. In our previous exercises in this series and in the exercises in the previous course, 101, we've only had bass drum as 8th notes. Now we're going to start mixing in some bass drum notes as 16th notes. So it's going to get a little more exciting and a little more challenging, but also very much more rewarding. So looking at exercise number 7, bass drum's going to start off on 1. That's not too bad. But then we're going to have the bass drum on the of the 1. So the way it's going to work is it's going to come right before that 2. It's going to feel a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit more spaced out than what it would be if you're playing the 8th note. It's going to go something like ba ba cha. If the ba was the bass drum and the cha was the snare, ba ba cha. All right. If that doesn't make sense, of course, just check out the live video demonstration. But then again, we're going to repeat that pattern on 1 and the bass drum, and then the snare drum is going to be on 2. So there we have it. That is what the written exercises or the exercises written out for lesson number 1 and beginning drum set beats 102 looks like. All right, like I said, take some time to print this out, follow along the video if you need to write these out on your own or take a shot on your own. And then we'll get into the actual demonstration so you can see me play them, and we'll go from there. Hi, and welcome to Beginning Drum Set Beats 102. This is lesson number 1, and as discussed in the written portion of the video, in this first lesson in this new series, we're going to be exploring a couple of new things. The first one is we're going to be doing 16th notes on a hi-hat and eventually doing some 16th note work on the bass drum. So right here at the beginning of this series, in the first live demo, I just want to go over quickly how we're going to be doing the hi-hat pattern. So again, we're working with 16th notes. So we'll be playing 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and on our hi-hat. And again, we're going to be doing that with one hand. So I just want to show you a little bit about how that's going to look. So this would be exercise number 1 on your worksheet, or lesson number 1. So remember too that we're going to be doing it at about 65 beats per minute. So I've already set my metronome to that speed. So let's see what it sounds like. Now those are quarter notes. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. But our exercise indicates we want 16th notes with one hand, probably right hand lead for most of you. So it's going to sound something like this. Okay? Alright, I'm going to do that again, and this time I'm going to count it so you can hear a little better. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Alright, just a few quick pointers there. If you're just getting started on the drum set, this might be a challenge at first because playing with the 16th notes is quite a bit of work. But the tips I would give you is, if you need to slow it down a lot slower than the 65 beats per minute, feel free to do that. There's nothing wrong with that to get started. Also too, one thing that makes it a little bit easier to play 16 notes when they get a little faster is to actually accent the 1, 2, 3, 4 a little bit. I think you probably saw me do that. Not required, but sometimes a little more helpful. And we really haven't talked about accents a whole lot yet, but basically when I'm playing the 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and I'm just accenting the 1, 2, 3, and 4 slightly by kind of snapping the wrist. And if you remember the molar technique that we talked about in Snare Drum Mastery 101, that's kind of where that's coming from as well. So that's just a quick tip. You don't have to do that. You can play it just straight 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and I just tend to throw that accent in there because it makes it a little easier to play, and I think it sounds a little better. So there you have it. That's exercise number 1. Alright, so hopefully you were able to get that exercise number 1 going pretty well. And in exercise number 2, I just wanted to mention a couple quick tips as well. Here we're going to be adding the bass drum and the snare drum onto our beat. And just 2 quick things I want to mention. There's 2 ways you can play this. Either one of them is correct. You can do your 2 and 4 on the snare, like you normally do. Or option here, you can also do a rim click, which is taking your stick, and like I said, if you've never played drum set up to this point, or this is just a reminder for you, a rim click is simply taking your stick and holding it like you normally would, but instead of hitting the drum like this, you're actually going to place it so that the stick kind of lays across the drum. One side is, the back side typically is laying on the drum head. About 3/4 of the way across, you can see there, and then the rest of the surface is sticking out, and it's actually sitting on the rim of the snare drum there. And when I do this, I usually leave probably about 6 inches or so between where the stick sticks out or where it contacts the rim. But this is a place where you got to experiment. You got to find the sweet spot of where you think it sounds the best. Some people like certain sounds a little better, so you got to kind of experiment. Other people actually flip their stick upside down and do it backwards. I like to do this because I think it sounds better. A quick note too, this is not going to sound the best rim click that you ever heard before, and that's because I'm using a silent stroke drum head on this snare drum here, so it's not going to give you the full rim click that a normal snare drum would do. Also, you can probably hear a difference too play, so that's the explanation for that. But yeah, you would just experiment with exactly where you want to place your stick to get this best sound in the rim click. So that's an option. You can either play snare drum the regular way, or you can play the rim click as a demo. And in this first one, I'll do a demonstration of both, so you can see kind of what it looks like, and then it's got to be up to you going forward how you want to handle that. Whether you want to do snare drum or rim click, or you want to kind of do a combination of both. So, all right, again, we're at 65 beats per minute. So we're going to take a look at exercise number 2 here. Alright, I hope the exercises are going pretty well for you so far. In this final exercise in lesson number 1, exercise number 7, we're actually going to start introducing the 16th note on the bass drum. So I just want to give you a quick demo of how that's broken down so you can understand it very well. Alright, if you take a look at it, and like I said, I hope you've done the written exercises before and kind of written the counts out to see how it works. We're actually going to be putting a 16th note on the of the 1 and the 3. So they're going to be coming right before the 2 and the 4 with the snare drum. So if we're doing our 16th note, they're going to be 1, E, and So our bass drum will go 1, E, and Again, it would be 1, E, and 1, E, and Okay? And right behind that would follow the 2, which would be on the snare drum. So I'm going to do a quick demonstration, like really super slow, so you can see exactly where it goes. So it would go something like 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and 4, E, and And don't be ashamed to do some of your exercises like that at first, because I do it as well, just so you can get the feel and the coordination before you play them up to a regular tempo. Alright, so I'm going to play that at the regular 65 beats per minute so you can see how that sounds as well.